Most of those caravan immigrants are now in the United States for processing and are expected to file for asylum. But the group's American organizers are vowing to get every single one of mostly those Central Americans into the country and to stay permanently. Meanwhile, the DOJ has sent dozens of prosecutors and judges to the border to make sure those asylum claims are valid. They have their work cut out for them. Let's discuss the situation as it relates also to Mexico, as this caravan is now kind of an annual thing. Geronimo Gutierrez, the Mexican ambassador to the United States, is with us. Mucho gusto.
Mucho gusto, Laura.
Embajador. All right, I'm not doing the whole thing in Spanish, although it's tempting. Let's talk about what's happened here. I mean, I think people initially were wondering, how do people do this annually? They take this long trek through Mexico. At one point, the Honduran ambassador to Mexico actually marched with the migrants, saying he was on orders to do that, which was wild. But how do they manage to get across the border into Mexico and then for weeks make their way up to the U.S. border? Is Mexico doing enough?
This event really started several years back to calling attention on human rights fundamentally in Mexico. And the United States and Mexico are obligated by international law on asylum matters. And the truth is that in this year, the caravan got so much attention mediatically that people were much more interested, and some of the people actually that were not original in the caravan
joined it.
That's the truth. The caravan started with around 1,300 people.
Most coming from Honduras.
Most coming from Central America.
Yeah.
And the truth is that I can understand why here people get the perception that the Mexican government is not doing much, which is certainly not the case. First of all, I'll give you the figure that over the last 10 years, Mexico has repatriated around 1.1 million people, according to law and due process, international and due process. And
how many of the caravan folks did you deport?
Well, from the caravan, many of them were repatriated. Around 260,000.
Deported, repatriated.
They were repatriated according to legal process.
Okay. Do you know how many?
Around 260.
So there were 1,000 initially?
Several other actually were offered some form of humanitarian assistance or regularization in Mexico, and some of them indeed got to the border.
Didn't most of the people, though, not want to stay in Mexico? I mean, I kept saying, if you want to get out of trouble in Honduras, why not be part of Mexico or apply to asylum in Mexico? There's something called Mexico has to be called a safe country, correct?
That's correct. It is in the interest of both the United States and Mexico, I think, to make sure that wherever migration takes place through our countries and between our countries is legal, safe, and orderly. And that's where we're working. In fact, we have very good cooperation with CBP and DHS. We don't see eyeball to eyeball on everything.
All right.
We are in favor of securing the borders and having secure borders.
No wall, or you don't care about a wall as long as you're not paying for it.
I think we left that chapter behind.
I'm never leaving it behind. Not the Mexico part paying,
but the truth is, no. Sometimes Mexico is frustrated. Mexico is in favor of having secure borders. We don't always share the same view as the administration here on how to achieve that goal.
Yeah, I got to play Vicente Fox because he was on my show not so long ago, former president of Mexico. Very interesting guy, very colorful figure. Let's watch. Okay, so we shouldn't have a border.
God didn't create borders.
Do you have a fence at your house?
We shouldn't have a border like you don't have with Canada.
Do you have a fence at your house?
This will happen in this next generation.
Okay.
Because we are going to be on a one-to-one.
No border. Is that a common feeling in Mexico that they should get rid of them?
No, to tell you the truth, I actually served with President Fox. And
that was wild, though. No border.
I do have to disagree with him on this one. Borders exist for good reasons, and good borders make good neighbors, and that's the truth. That's not certainly what everybody believes in Mexico. We believe in having secure borders. And again, we're working very closely with the United States in that regard.
What about your southern border? I know the United States is actually offering assistance in the southern border. It's not a lot of this stuff's not public, but is trying to help you secure your border. It's how long? It's about 800 miles long or so. Is that right? Or am I getting the figure?
We work in our southern border. We're working very closely with different agencies from Mexico on security matters.
But people are streaming across, though, right? You got 1,000 of those caravan members came across.
But again, if you look at the numbers, Laura, you will see that we work, again, according to international law and due process, and repatriated over 1.1 million people in the last 10 years that are essentially coming through our southern border.
But why is Jeff Sessions, if you guys are doing your job, why is Jeff Sessions saying this? Let's watch.
We are adding 35 assistant United States attorneys to the border to prosecute illegal entries into our country. We're also announcing that we're moving 16 or 18, actually, immigration judges to the border. We are not going to let this country be overwhelmed. People are not going to caravan or otherwise stampede our border.
People are just outraged about this. I mean, I got to meet you a month or so ago, 2 months ago, and you lived in Texas. I mean, if you were American, you'd be a conservative Republican. Let me just say that about the ambassador here, okay? So you're in a tough pickle, though, because we've now had a 238% increase month to month, year to year, from April of 2017 to April of 2018. 238% increase of illegal border crossings. That's southwest border, not coming from Canada.
But the numbers, Laura, if you look at the year before, they were way down.
That's because Trump had the tough rhetoric. We're going to build the wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. And it was like, yeah, I'm not going to I'm staying back in Guada. I'm not going to go up and make that trek.
Again,
Trump's not going to let me in. But Trump's letting people in. We're doing catch and release. I'm blaming us for this, not you. We're catching them, processing them, and saying, bye, have fun with your sponsor, then they never come back.
But the truth is that both Mexico and the U.S., I think, have a shared interest in making sure that whatever migration takes place is legal, safe, and orderly.
Right.
And we do need to make sure that there are sufficient avenues for that. I think that if you look at the history of immigration to Mexico, you will see that a lot of the Mexicans that have come to the United States did so because they did not have an opportunity or very good opportunities in Mexico. And that's not the fault or the responsibility of the U.S. That's on us. But the U.S. should also recognize that there's a need for those people here. And, Mexicans don't have a chip implanted in them saying, go and break the law of the U.S.
Well, the Mexican migration is actually down to the United States.
It's way down.
It's way down. But the Northern Triangle is up. That's where a concerted effort between Mexico and the United States to stop these people from making the trek. Because if it's 200 are getting in under asylum, which is phony, sorry, we're going to have 2,000, then 2 million. It's going to keep getting worse and worse. I'm telling you, Mr. Ambassador.
Yes, but last year, that's why we had the U.S. and Mexico co-convene a meeting which took place in Miami to address both the development side of the equation and also the migration and security side. We should do more of that. We cannot be satisfied with what is going on, neither Mexico nor the United States nor the Central Americans. But we need to work on both sides.
But look, I mean, in Mexico, we had a lot of remittances going back to Mexico for years and years. Those are down now, but they're still hefty. It's a good amount of money. Mexico likes those dollars coming back in. You don't want the guns from the United States going to Mexico. We don't want the drugs from Mexico coming to the United States or the cartels or the human traffickers. We don't want any of that. But I'm telling you, Honduras, they love the American dollars going in. It's 19% of their GDP.
Well,
you're smart. You went to Harvard. I only went to a small school in New Hampshire. 20%, let me do the math. That's 1/5 of the GDP, right? That's a lot.
That's a lot.
So, well, it's good to have you on, and will you come back?
pleasure.
And I think there's a lot Mexico and the United States can do to improve its relationship, and I'm optimistic about NAFTA. I'm going to say that right now. Are you optimistic?
I'm moderately optimistic.
Okay.
We still need to tackle some issues.
Yeah.
NAFTA is very important for the U.S. and also for Mexico. I think there's a serious and a good faith effort on both sides, or the three sides, actually, to get it done. And I think next week will be crucial.
If we have a left-wing new president of Mexico, there ain't going to be any. The NAFTA is not going to be a good deal. The renegotiation won't be a good deal. Got to get it done now. Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Really great to see you.